They focus on operating efficiency and effectiveness. The challenge this presents is that good management creates plans and budgets, not visions and strategies. Second, we need to put forth effort. There's an old saying attributed to Mark Twain that says, "I didn't have enough time to write you a short letter." Essentially, the same challenges faces those creating vision statements. To make an elegantly simple vision statement requires enormous effort, analyzing potential volumes of research and data, group conversations, group reflection, and group synthesis. Third, we must use both our minds and our hearts. Visions are not only the product of sound thinking, but are also the representation of the things that are held most deeply, the organization's guiding principles or value system. Coming to grips with this aspect requires that those leading the process be very much in touch with themselves and with the feelings of others. Next, closely following this maturity of understanding oneself, the leaders of the vision creation process must have a deep sense of working as a team for the benefit of the team. If one does not participate as a team player, tensions build that will sooner or later completely destroy the work. When consensus is reached, it must be true consensus. Fifth, the process must be completed with a sense of urgency, or it will never create the energy and excitement to engage all the employees in its achievement. On the other hand, you should allow sufficient time to ensure you are creating as an effective vision as you can, because it must be the source of focus and energy for many years. Recall from your other experiences of working in groups where you embarked on a project only to find somewhere in the middle it fell apart. The difficulty in reactivating the group may be almost impossible because of the cynicism generated. The same with visions. An ineffective vision is worse than not having one at all. Finally, if a vision is to be successful, the development process must be led by a guiding coalition and introduced by that coalition. Getting the right people involved is critical. Recapping this segment, vision is a critical element in the change system and is critical to the success of our ventures. It gives guidance and hope, direction and character. Whether it is conscious to us or not, we all have built our businesses and institutions on a change system. Where vision is the core of the change system, businesses and institutions have a better chance of being successful and vital. They have the potential to move. Where is your vision? Visions are seamless, blind to different cultures or languages, to the type or scale of the organization, and to economic, social, or political context. Achievable visions are a requirement to survive in our increasingly global environment. Let's do a super job to make our dreams a reality. In the next segment, we will look at a few methods for developing visions and also have our special guest join us. Get stuck on our own.
Let's begin with the first question and answer session. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. Therefore, we ask that only one question be asked per phone call, and that these questions be as brief as possible. You may call the studio directly at the phone numbers or fax which appear on your screen. We remind you to make your phone calls at a distance from the monitor to avoid feedback. Our first call is from Peru. It's from Cide in the city of Lima in Peru.
Good morning. We would like to congratulate the whole team at ITC for the series of video conferences. What is the difference between vision and mission in companies? Thank you and congratulations again.
Thank you for the question. Many times those words are used interchangeably. And so if we would look at Mr. Collins' work in Built to Last, for example, he would say that the vision consists of several different elements, one of which is a mission. And generally, many people think of the way he uses the word mission as their vision statement. Essentially, what I would actually call it an articulated image. For me, you can use the words, I believe, interchangeably. If the vision is one that creates an image of where you want to go, that also aligns with the criteria that we spoke about, that you can use that as your driver. So if you want to make a distinction between a mission and a vision, I would tend to use this. A vision is that image of the future that you can never quite reach. A mission might be your first major assault on that vision, from which you derive your strategies. So if you want to use that as a distinction, you may do so. Collins would say that a mission is 3 to 5 years, and that a vision might be 15 or more years, in his words. So I'm not too hung up on using those words interchangeably.
Thank you. Our next question is from Mexico City. It is from la Dirección General de Educación Tecnológica Industrial, CETIS número 3, in Mexico City, Mexico.
Our question is the following. What is the cultural impact in the formulation of important visions according to those 6 characteristics that you mentioned?
Culture, organizationally as well as nationally, is fundamental to how we even think about developing or deriving visions for our organizations. And so it must be one of the ingredients that is clearly reflected upon. Also, the organizational culture itself will be the deciding factor of whether or not your vision can be successful. Ultimately, if you've created a vision and you've worked toward it, but you haven't integrated it into the culture, the vision itself will not be achievable. I do believe as well that in the global environment, we need to be cognizant of the different value systems that exist in the world and the different cultures that are there. And there may be, as we think about developing a vision, some considerations that need to be taken into account during the development process to accommodate those.
Our next question is also from Mexico. It is from La Universidad Autónoma de Baja California Sur, in the city of La Paz, in the state of Baja California Sur, Mexico.
Llamada de México. Next question.
Okay, our next call will be from Mexico City. It'll be from the Instituto Politécnico Nacional de Educación Continua from Mexico City, Mexico. Okay, let's take one now. We're having some communications difficulties. Thank you for your patience. The next is a fax from Medellin, Colombia. And it says, Tom, you've said that a vision helps to coordinate the actions of different people. Please tell us more about this.
Okay. A vision creates the destination or an image of the destination that you're trying to achieve. And if it's articulated in a way that is understandable and is meaningful to the constituents of the organization, it allows the constituents of the organization to know and use the vision as a guide in making decisions. The power of this is that it reduces the requirement for management. It reduces the requirement of sort of interference, in a sense, to the productivity and efficiency of the organization. Not only does it work at the local level, but if the vision is understood at the international or global level, if you have multiple locations around the globe, it allows the people in all of those locations to make decisions as well. So it creates the framework, and multiple peoples of multiple cultures can use it as the guide for decision making. And clearly one of the things we all want as effective leaders and managers is to drive the decision making to the lowest point and most effective point in the organization.
Thank you. Our next question is from the Dominican Republic. It is from the Pontificia Universidad Católica Madre y Maestros in the city of Santiago in the Dominican Republic.
Hello. Sí, es de la Universidad Pontificia Universidad Católica.
Buenos días.
Recinto Santo Tomás de Aquino de Santo Domingo.
Buenas
tardes. María Bisonó de Educación Continua. Con las nuevas tendencias
the new tendencies of globalization, would there be then a vision for the countries? What do you think? And how should this be written? Should it be in the ing form, in the first person plural, first person, or is it in an infinitive mode? How should this be written?
Okay. As any organization expands from the local community to multiple locations, or any very large organization, for example, that has multiple divisions, there can be within those organizations visions that are distinct to that entity. However, all of them need to be subservient to or subordinate to the company vision. The most important one is obviously the company's vision. And then how each of the organizations fit in there, they could have their own vision driving that. In general, I'd say that the visions start off with we, because it is representative of many peoples. It's representative to the customers, it's representative to the stockholders, it's representative of the employees, and it's representative of the organization's core reason for existing. And so as an organization, if you engage the people and use language that engages the people, it's how, in fact, you will become more effective.
Thank you, and let me correct, the source of that last question was from the Universidad Católica in Santo Domingo, not in Santiago, but it was in the Dominican Republic. Our next question is from Mexico. It is from La Comisión Federal de Electricidad, SECAP, in Mexico City, Mexico.
My name is Jesus Gallegos, and I would like to congratulate all of the organizers of this video conference program and the speakers, and because they are really creating a lot of interest here. The rich countries have a fairy tale economy where the rights of capital have priority against the ethical rights of the people. And this means that salaries have come down for blue-collar workers and for workers in general, as well as social benefits. And this is what flexibility of globalization means. Thank you for your answer.
I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question, Jesus, but I do appreciate the question. I think it's a significant one for all businesses as well as governments around the world. As the world becomes more competitive, clearly there are going to be shifts in capital investments, and there are going to be shifts in the remuneration or the salaries, etc., that are paid to people. I happen to come from the point of view, however, that suggests that there's enough in talent and enough capital and enough resource in the world that it all should be fairly, that we all should be treated fairly. And so I don't necessarily think that a vision should drive organizations to reduce salaries. I believe that there are adjustment periods in any life cycle of any business where, in fact, we may run into some financial difficulties where we have to make adjustments. But I will say that if the vision is clear to that organization and the strategies are clearly defined in that organization and the people have been involved in the development of both of those, I have experienced companies that have gone through downsizing or re-engineering efforts or restructure efforts that during the process the people recognized that if the organization was to achieve its vision, was to achieve its objectives, that in fact they were willing to voluntarily leave the organization because they knew that the part of the organization that they were representing really wasn't part of the core direction of the business. So that's one example. And another is where I've actually seen an organization where the people have voluntarily reduced their income or their salaries or wages for a period of time to assist without that coming as a directive from the top of the organization. Where it came from was the belief in the vision, the values, and how the leaders had behaved in aligning those so that they gave a significant credibility to the people and the belief in the future and in their own future.
Thank you. Our next question is from Mexico. It is from La Universidad Tecnológica de Tecamachalco, in the city of Tecamachalco, in the state of Puebla, in Mexico.
First of all, we would like to congratulate all of you in the name of our University of Tecamachalco here in Puebla, Mexico, and Dr. Cardenas, congratulations for this 100th program. How realistic should a vision be? If this implies a desirable future, how should we define it? Does a leader have to be a futurologist? Thank you.
I'm not sure if any of us are true futurologists. However, there are futurists that out there that do gather information and become very astute and predictable. I don't think that any of us are necessarily have to be that to develop a vision for an organization. I believe if we look at the capabilities that we have within our organization, the purpose of why we exist as an organization, we look at the employee base, our resources, we look at our client base, we look at the markets that we want to serve, and we think about those realistically in terms of being able to delight our clients with the products and services that they want, and that we have the resources to deliver that. It gives us a foundation or a springboard, I think, to say what else can we do that will set us apart in our markets, in our industries, or in whatever business we're in, and allow us to even become more successful. And so there is a sense of dreaming that must go on. We must use our imaginations to imagine what is possible. But if we engage not only ourselves as leaders, but the people within the organization and free that spirit or that energy, it's amazing what information or what ideas will emerge to the top. And it's in that definition that you get the engagement which is going to allow you, number one, to achieve the vision ultimately, but give you that direction. So I would suggest that we don't necessarily have to be futurologists, but we have to be dreamers. And we have to be able to take that dream that we have, or that we all have together potentially, and say, okay, if we want to get there, does it fit with all of the other aspects of our business and our markets? And then let's just take a risk and go for it and have some fun.
Thank you. The next question is from Mexico. It's from the Centro Universitario de Tijuana, in the city of Tijuana, the state of Baja California, Mexico.
What happens within an educational institution where the leaders have personalized visions and not institutional visions? Then what are we supposed to do when they are the senior managements?
That's a very good question and a difficult question. One that is experienced not only in educational institutions but in businesses. Successful businesses have to have alignment at the senior level. Successful institutions have to have alignment at the senior level. And so the challenge is that those people need to be brought together by someone, hopefully the president or whoever, or some guiding body, even if it's the board of directors, to gain alignment. What will happen is that you will dissipate the energy of the organization, no one will have clarity, and you'll start building infrastructures which will ultimately prohibit you from, in the future, being successful at achieving a vision. So I would encourage, in a sense, that each of you in those situations talk to those people and say, how does this really fit into what we're trying to do? Help me understand how it fits in with the bigger picture of the larger university or organization, and attempt to go that way. Unfortunately, I'm afraid if it remains that way, mediocrity may be the game.
Our next question is also from Mexico. It is from the Gobierno del Estado de Chihuahua, in the city of Chihuahua, the state of Chihuahua in Mexico.
Buenos días.
Yes. The question is the following. Given the adaptation that we need as far as all these global changes, what is the scope of the visions in companies? What is the scope in terms of time of these visions?
With reference to time for visions, sometimes the scope can be 3 years, 5 years, sometimes it can be longer. For example, ITC has had a vision that hasn't changed now for almost 16 years. And so depending on how you've articulated it and where you are in your journey to achieve it will also impact the time frame. I tend to think of a vision of being somewhere at least a minimum of 3 years, potentially 5, and probably would shoot for somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 10. The other important thing is that the vision should be revisited every year, not necessarily changed, but check in where you are, and is it still allowing you to achieve the direction that you want in your market and your levels of success.
Our next question is from la Dirección General de Educación Tecnológica Industrial, CETIS número 3, Mexico City, Mexico.
Congratulations on your anniversary. My question is, when we live in a very politically changing environment, society in general faces new strategies, economic strategies on a national level that weaken the established visions and missions. How can we establish a realistic vision when you are amidst so many changes?
With difficulty is my first answer. Secondly, it's actually taking into consideration those things. I believe that if we think about our vision and where we want to go in 3 to 5 years or 10 or 15 years, we have to also say, based on the economic situation or the political situation of where we currently exist, what would be some of the ramifications? And one of the ways that you might think about it is some scenario analysis and say, well, if this is the vision, what happens if this happens politically? Or if this is the vision, what would happen if something else happened politically? And test your vision and your understanding, because it might allow you to start asking questions that you need to ask differently than you're currently asking that will allow you to achieve that vision.
The next question is from Panama. It's from the Universidad Tecnológica de Panamá, in the city of Panama, in Panama.
Of the world and the heart of the universe. Greetings to all of the coordinators who are currently there in San Diego, and congratulations, Miguel Ángel, for your contagious vision, Berta, Maria Luisa, Nancy, and all of you, the team who is right now in that room. My question is the following. Tom, you are talking about vision, and the people who are listening to you, oh, he's talking about vision once again. We already have a vision. We're visionaries. We've got that on the wall now. Why again vision? What would you say to all these people who are listening to you right now talk about vision? How can you really convince them that a vision is absolutely indispensable, a reachable one? What strategy would you use to convince them of this? Thank you, and greetings to all of the coordinators from Panama. Thank you.
Thank you. Why vision again? Because vision is the core of any change system, and the change system is the core of an effective business. And so if we're talking about the most important things, it's hard not to say enough. So that would be one point of view. Also, I think that as we're communicating vision, we tend to think if we've got a vision, it's posted on the wall, that everyone knows about it and it's okay. One of the things that Jack Welch said in that interview that I referred to in the talk was that you have to repeat visions to the point where you become nauseous. It is so important, and it is so important to have clarity in the organization, and it is so important to have alignment that as leaders you must continue to repeat, repeat, and repeat. I think also the reason for talking about vision is that as each of us explores the development of our vision, and even if we now have one, it's important to consider the fundamentals of what drives that. Are we still aligned? Are we still aligned with our business? Are we still aligned with our markets, our clients, and our employees? And we need to look at all those constituencies on a regular basis as leaders with reference to where we said we want to go. And are we still engaged? And so I would continue to say that we need to talk about vision regularly. Our people need to understand the importance of vision. And if, in fact, we have difficulty in recognizing the value of vision, we might want to do some benchmarking or looking around at those companies that seem to be very successful and go ask them questions about, well, how did you become so successful? What did the role of vision have to do? And I suspect that those companies that have been in business a long time, those companies that have been traditionally quite profitable, you'll find that at the core, whether spoken or not, is a very common understood vision of where the business is going. And so I can tell you sort of categorically that if you have a good vision, you will be a successful business.
Our next question is from La Universidad Autónoma de Baja California Sur in the city of La Paz, in the state of Baja California Sur in Mexico.
I would like to ask your opinion about what a vision is for a university. We have the possibility to have an institution with excellent quality that not only satisfies or surpass the needs of Baja California Sur, but we want them to go beyond their areas of influence and make it a very high model of educational institution in the northwest of our country and as well as southwest of the United States. That is what we would like to have.
I believe that any university or any institution needs to look at its constituents as to what role it's playing. So as I heard the question, you have an area of focus, you have an area of marketability that you would like your students to play in and have influence in. And so I think that that's critically important. I also believe that if a university is providing students with the education, the knowledge, and some of the experience that will make them most successful in their endeavors, there needs to be a great deal of attention paid to what are the students going to need in the future, not today or yesterday, to allow them to be successful. So for example, if I want to enter the business world today, and I believe that I need to get an MBA, but I also need to have access to having a degree in law, which would make me most successful in my endeavor, I'm going to start searching for an institution which offers that. And if the institution that is nearby me does not offer it, I'll choose to go somewhere else. And so I think that looking at the students as clients and customers is critically important, but looking at their future is where the vision, I think, of the universities and institutions might have some value on focusing.